On this Sega Talk, we A your Q's in our first Sega Talk Q&A. We open up the Patreon and social media mailbag to see what you want us to answer on Sega Talk. SEGAbits presents Sega Talk, a podcast talking all things Sega, with your hosts, George and Barry.
Look, it's a giant talking egg. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the master here. So what?
Hello and welcome to episode 161 of Sega Talk. I'm Barry. With me is the A to my Q, George.
I plead the fifth. Is that what you're supposed to say? Yeah. No answers.
That's what you. No, you can't. You can't weasel out of any of the questions tonight. And yeah, that's what we're going to be doing tonight. It's our first ever listener mailbag Q&A. I haven't made like the graphic yet, but I don't know. What would you call this? Would this be like a mailbag or Q&A? Like, what's more clicky? I
don't know, professional, like
hits.
Probably put like asking, I don't know, you have to put like a clickbait title, right? Like, oh my God, they asked the most scandalous questions. I don't know how that would be. It's like, is this the end? And then it'll be a question mark. How about that? And then it's like Q&A after that, you know, something that I've noticed that's everything on YouTube. Have you noticed that? Everybody's ending and everything is like falling apart. I was like, what?
Should we do like
yeah.
There we go. All right, so we can use that or something. So maybe this one we'll put the episode out for our Patreon people, and then I'll screen grab that and use that in the public post.
Or you could just call the podcast like "I'm sorry ... and then that's it, and then people click on it because they're like, "What's going on?"
I got it. You deserve answers.
Oh, I like
That's
it.
good. That's good. And it's me doing this.
We could use the Sonic being disappointed or like crying that every single outlet uses. That'd be perfect.
Maybe if I like cry. I don't know why I licked my fingers to like make tears.
I think that's how they do it in Hollywood.
All right. I'm good now. I think I'm going to use some screens. It'll be the first and only time our faces, or at least mine, crying. And you're in like a little circle, like it's Japanese television, and you're like up in the corner.
Got you.
But yeah, anyway, so this one, this is actually technically a Patreon pick. So what happened was our Patreon picker, Daniel Andres, he has a big menu of things that he wants us to talk about. And so we kind of just pick from them. Plug, if you support us on Patreon, you get the show 2 weeks early in audio. There's another one that gives you 2 weeks early audio video. And if you're at a higher tier, you get to tell us what to talk about. And this one was a pick from Daniel Andres. And what he did was he put like a topic there saying, what made you a Sega fan? And I thought, could this be an hour-long episode? I don't know. It seems more like a question we could probably answer in a couple minutes. So
correct.
I decided to expand on this and throw the question out to all our patrons and people on Blue Sky and Shitter and Discord. And I got a collection of questions here. So we're going to kick things off with actually a question I have, George.
What?
You know, because we typically like to do like a nostalgic look back before we get in. So what was your first question that you were ever asked? Can you remember it?
Like by someone at like Sega or like fans?
No, just in life.
In life, the first question ever.
Do you think it would be like, I don't know.
Do you want a bottle? Probably, right? When you're like a
probably,
baby.
Or like, can you say mama? Or like, did you poop?
And mine was probably in Spanish because like my first words, my parents only spoke Spanish. And I only spoke English when I went to school. So I'd probably be like, Papa or Mama, something like that.
There we go. That's your first answer, then, probably.
And I probably nailed it, too.
Yeah, mine would probably be Mama, too. Yeah, so I guess we're both Mama's boys. Um, but Daniel's question was, what made you a Sega fan? And so, George, why don't you give him your answer, and then I'll share mine.
I think that like I was cool with the Sega Genesis. I thought that the whole like war and the whole thing they did and how they play that up in marketing was brilliant, and I liked the company
Yeah,
because of that. And that was my first entry into Sega as a console manufacturer. But I think I was still like Nintendo. Super Nintendo was really good, but I didn't really go all the way in on like, oh no, Sega has games that I prefer compared to Nintendo until like when they did the whole 3D Revolution arcade where you would go to
mm,
every arc and they would have the best games. Like you would literally go like, wow, House of the Dead 2 looks amazing, or Crazy Taxi is a driving game that anyone could play because it's like kind of rethinking the idea of racing games. Like it's not a racing game technically. You're on a map with a little like arrow and then you pick up people and then there's money involved. So you are racing and it is a racing game, but it's like you have to know the map. There's actually jumping. There's skill involved. That kind of stuff really blew my mind at the time. I thought it was like very innovative, and I thought that's what made Sega and that style of games they made during that time stand out.
mm.
I also really thought Daytona USA was one of the best looking games I've ever seen in an arcade. So that kind of blew my mind. All those 3D games they did early on. So my mind was blown because of that and not playing like the Nintendo 64, which was cool.
Right.
Like Mario 64 was an awesome game. But like I already experienced 3D because of the arcade, so I was already a fan of, what 3D could be. So that's why I like Sega. What about you?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've told the story 1,000 times where like the I got the Genesis in 1991 for my birthday in November. Sonic was maybe like 6 to 8 months old, but that's like how I became a Sonic fan. But I did own a Sega console. But I mean, I liked the hardware, and so I guess I became a fan of the hardware first. I loved the Genesis. I loved really up until I guess I got a Nomad after that, and then around 98, 99, maybe 98, I got a Game Gear. But I really didn't get into the wider Sega catalog until the Dreamcast. And I think I became a Sega fan around, like a true Sega fan around that time, because I was able to experience like all that they had to offer at the time. So like Jet Set Radio, Space Channel 5, Sonic Adventure, and Crazy Taxi. And I became aware that they were the ones making these games, where in the past it was kind of like, oh, I love Genesis. My favorite games are like the Disney games from like Virgin Interactive, like so I wasn't really thinking Sega was the one bringing me all this entertainment. And I think a thing I really appreciated too, and you really didn't have many options at that time, was that like you look at Nintendo and what they're offering, and Nintendo, of course, they want to keep the people on their platform happy with a ton of different franchises or genres, but a lot of those are like either Mario or Zelda or Donkey Kong, which is kind of an extension of Mario. It's like, you want the best racer on our system? It's a Mario game. You want some sports games? They're probably Mario games. So it's like it feels very samey to me. And what I really like about Sega is that even though, yeah, Sonic has his own spin-offs, and some of them are like the better games of the genre, like Transformed for racing, I think I really appreciated that Sega like gave you a lot of variety. Like the racer wasn't a Sonic racer, it was Daytona. The fighter was not a Sonic fighting game, it was Virtua Fighter. Whereas with Mario, it's like Smash Brothers, and that just didn't really appeal to me. Like I wasn't a huge Mario fan, so imagine like any game you want on that console that's like the best in the genre is a Mario game.
Right.
That's not exciting. And so I really liked, and I think they did a great job at giving all the studios their own names and their own vibes, because it was like you could not only be a Sega fan, but you could be like a Smilebit fan or a Sonic Team fan. And I think now they're kind of bringing that back with RGG Studio, but I don't know. Yeah, I long answer, but yeah, that's
I think we both had long
You know?
answers that I thought were going to be longer, but I agree. I think there's also like a time period during the like Saturn and like Dreamcast where all the like you knew if you bought a Sega console, you were getting the arcade games in a way better quality than you would on like PlayStation 1 or even Nintendo
Right.
64 didn't even have any to be like to start with. So and I always felt like the Nintendo 64 had like these like 15 games that were like ridiculous classics, and then like everything else was just like kind of a drop off in my opinion. And I thought that like Sega did better, like you said, variety. If you love platformers, like Nintendo kind of mastered the Nintendo platformer so many times, but Sega always had different experiences, and I think they still do. And also you said that they're like doing RGG and Sonic Team. I kind of wish they would put more of an emphasis on like the teams on Atlas. I know they have like I think it's Team Zero that did the new Metaphor, and then they called it Persona people that do the Persona. I just wish that they would put them more up front and like have them more distinctively labeled. Like have a team for the Shin Megami Tensei, and then have a team for Persona, and then one for whatever Metaphor if we're ever gonna get a new one.
Right. Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean,
sorry.
it's a shame they probably won't revive the SmileBit brand for Jet Set Radio 3. I wish they would, but I guess it would be... It's not really the... I mean, is it? Because I guess if some of the leads are behind it, they brought the lead artists back. I don't know. We'll see. I'd like to be surprised and see SmileBit again.
Is it going to be like under RGG, because technically most of the ex Jet Set Radio people are at RGG Studio?
It's possible that, they have been doing that with Virtua Fighter. It's a shame AM2 has kind of been dissolved, or we haven't seen it in a long time. The most recent AM2 game is Virtua Fighter 5, which is just like a remaster from RGG Studio. So it's like
right. Well, I think they joined RGG.
Yeah.
I think they're in RGG. I think they got absolved into them, so they're not making arcade games. And the idea is that they're going to grow because of the financial earning. Recently said that they're going to put more money into them. So I'm assuming any team that goes under their umbrella, which is literally, I think, already 5 teams making games. It's ridiculous. It's not even really. It's just a branding for Sega teams so they could get that RGG push, which is crazy to think about that they have a push as a studio, because like literally 10 years ago, no one knew who they were in mainstream, at least. Yeah,
absolutely. His next question, it's for me. It's Barry. What's your shoe size?
This is a foot fetish thing. Don't do it, Barry. It's a trap.
It is. I'm not doing it. Sorry.
Okay.
I know you're the picker, but I can't do it. This next one. Why is George so beautiful?
You know what? I'm glad someone noticed, the Botox and all the creams and the Sonic face mask that I put on are finally being noticed. And if you want to support this beauty, please go to www.patreon.com/SEGAbits and support us at any tier. Thank you. That's all I got to say about
Do you
that.
actually use like creams and stuff?
No, I don't. I use like sunscreen when I go out. That's about it, though.
That's good. That's smart. Yeah, he didn't ask me, but like I wash my face and I'll put sunscreen on, and then But I have been thinking, like, should I get the
like a
facelift?
You'll look more human, in my opinion, if you couldn't move your face. So like you just find a pose you like, and then just stretch that face back. Yeah, there you go.
Well, what do you think of?
Probably more. You could probably go more. If you go to, I heard if you go to like Turkey, they do it like cheaper.
I have very elasticy skin, which I don't think is a good thing.
It could be
like I have.
Like, I don't know.
Can anyone else do this?
Man?
Like, look, I can like grab whole fistfuls and just like pull my face.
I think it means that we're like we're like spongy or something. I could do it pretty good too. So It's all the
well, that's
water we
good.
drink.
It's probably that. Yeah, yeah. He says, in all seriousness, how would you guys feel if Sega hypothetically announced a brand new console, one that had the specs of something between a Switch 2 and a Xbox Series X?
So like weak.
I guess so. I don't know. I mean, I'll answer that first. I think it would be too little too late for them. It would really it would be kind of like I guess I won't draw the comparisons, but it's just like pulling out of all these agreements with PlayStation and Xbox, taking away exclusives from Nintendo, and just like putting it all on one little console that they expect people to pick up in addition to the Switch and the Xbox. It's just, it, as a Sega fan, you know, in early 2000s, it would have excited me, but now in 2025, it kind of scares me, and it would make me think the company might like go bankrupt.
Yeah, because
How about you?
I mean, I think that right now the console landscape is changing, and now with digital, and I think even Microsoft said this, that when they lost the PlayStation 4 generation, that they basically lost the consumer basically, and it's hard to get back when people invest so much money into an ecosystem like the PlayStation 4 and now the PlayStation 5 and Steam. I think if Sega wanted to make hardware and have their like an entry into the idea of making hardware, the best bet would be like a handheld, like the Steam Deck. And now they're like opening up the OS so anyone could like modify it and make it their own. And if Sega had like innovative ideas with like those type of handheld hardwares that integrate with Steam, maybe they could get some hardware going in there and seeing how they sell and how their brand name is accepted by this community. And maybe even like give away games, like a bunch of Sega games if you buy it. So like now you're being competitive, even giving away Yakuza games with the bundles. That'd be pretty cool. And I think that way they could enter it in a way, but as a console manufacturer, I think that's too late. Like you have to print games and you have to get exclusive studios and then you have to make an online interface. It's probably not worth it for a lot of people, and at Sega at least.
Yeah 100%. I think you're on a good like track there, where it's like it's not so much them making their own console and their own ecosystem, but like partnering with Steam to make a Sega branded Steam Deck that maybe gives you kind of a Game Gear, Sega Nomad, Sega Saturn. Maybe they can even make a range of them where you can have like a Genesis, Saturn, or Dreamcast aesthetic to the handheld, and give it like its own UI, but it's still the Steam database, and maybe have it preloaded with some games. I know years back they did laptops. Do you remember that? They partnered with a company and did Sega branded laptops.
I didn't buy them, but I did see them around, and it was kind of like, I don't know if I want a laptop just because it has a Sega logo. I think it's like people want like a specific one, like you want like one of the new M1 chip Apple laptops or a ThinkPad or something. Yeah,
right. So I think that would be a good direction. Another one would be to return to the mini hardware that they were doing. I think it would be even smarter to do something where it's like a Game Gear Mini or something where it has dedicated cartridges with like a collection of games. I know someone's already doing that with gosh, I can't remember what it's called, but
it's Ever Arcade or something like that.
Yeah, and I know that's just like another thing to throw at people, and maybe it might be a smarter idea for them to just make software for that. But if they wanted to carve out their own niche, they could do something where you buy these little things and it would have everything from SG-1000 all the way up to like maybe 32X or Saturn. You know, so I think that would be kind of cool, because then it wouldn't really be eating into the competition, and it would be giving you a new way to experience stuff, like maybe even like Jet Set Radio or something. Like they're still selling that on the Xbox marketplace, but now you can get it on this like little thing. I don't know, but then again, it's like maybe it's just easier for them to release it on Steam.
Right. And
so
I think a lot of these companies have been trying to figure out a way how to like sell their old titles and make them appealing.
yeah,
Capcom had the whole like what was the whole thing they did? Oh, like they did like an arcade machine thing on the Switch where you could like go into a virtual arcade and it would have all the arcade titles you could buy, and they had like a monthly price, I think, for some of at some time. And then now they're doing the like putting a collection on a physical disc or Switch cartridge, and I think some of the stuff was like crazy stuff they've been releasing lately, like they did the Lion King one, the Jurassic Park bundled ones, and the Gargoyles. If Sega released more retro titles, like what direction would you want to see them go? Like the physical collection bundle thing, or like this weird like digital arcade VR room?
yeah. I don't like those digital ones because they come and go. I think it's a complete like waste of my time when I hear like, oh, Nintendo's just announced 8 new games coming to their digital subscription service. I'm like, that's as exciting as you telling me that a game that I own on my shelf over there is coming to Netflix. Like, I don't care. It's not mine to own. I'm paying like a monthly fee and I lose access. And there's gonna be coming a day when like the Switch marketplace is gonna be shut down and all those games will be inaccessible. Like, what's fun about that? But what I think they could do is announce a like digital marketplace where it's like a portal where you enter and all the games are there as like additional purchases. But then they can release a disc version like a year later, and it has all that on there for a, you know, like a price that's, you know, equitable. Yeah, reasonable. So it's like, because I remember they did there was an Xbox Arcade Classics, I think it was called, or something, where it was a 3D arcade that your avatar could walk around in and play games, and it was so fun. It had Intellivision, Atari, I forgot what else was in there, but someone added up what it would cost if you bought every game, and it was in the hundreds of dollars, and it was not like feasible. And I think if Sega did something like this, it would be more like each game is like 99 cents. Or you can subscribe to like a monthly all access if you don't want to pick and choose. Or you get the digital or the physical disc release, and that has everything on it. So I think that's something they could explore. I think it would be a lot more exciting than these collections like Sega Heritage that like come and go. Like, so I don't know.
If they do a digital collection like that, they would definitely have to put in the time and effort to like launch a app on not just mobile, but like Switch, Steam, that lets you, I don't know, like pause a game in one app and then launch it on your Switch and maybe just buy it one time and let you play them everywhere. Because rebuying a Genesis game for every single thing you own would be dumb. So I think
maybe they could go the Sega Forever route, and it's like ad supported, so all these games are free.
I hate ads, but yeah, if you like ads, I mean, I'm just saying, if they have the option to buy it, I like that better. You know what I mean? Always.
Right. But like, I'm thinking more like at the startup screen, there's a little ad in the corner and it goes away. Not like you wait for something.
Oh, I think it should be an optional tier for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I feel like they might have something in the works because they delisted all those games recently for no reason. Like, they were making money off Xbox for Sonic the Fighters and Virtua Fighter 2, and the only thing they've done is a limited run games release of Virtua Fighter 2, which I think is unrelated. I don't think they were like, let's pull it and force people to buy limited run games.
I will say it's crazy that we haven't had a Sonic collection physically in forever, and like we're seeing like the most bizarre, like Gargoyles is getting a physical release, and like, you know what I mean? So the fact that we're sitting here and we're like, Sonic hasn't had a like Switch release or a PS5 release with like a bundle of games like they did in the GameCube era.
Right. I mean, well, they did Sonic Origins Plus, but it's wild to me that they've been doing. They've done digital releases of Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 for years, and they never just stuck both of them on a disc. The closest they came was that Dreamcast collection on Xbox, but
Oh
that was
yeah.
like the weirdest. It was like Crazy
Crazy
Taxi,
Taxis.
Sega Bass Fishing, Space Channel 5 Part 2, but not Part
Yeah.
1.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
And then like
Anyway,
the artwork was horrible too
yeah.
on the cover. I hated the artwork for that. It was just like this like long screenshots, and they're trying to like cram it
Yeah.
in. Yeah. So
It was not great. Moving into our patrons, we love our patrons. So we have a question here from Michael S. He says, if you could bring back one Sega franchise similar to what they're doing with Shinobi and Jet Set Radio, what would it be? I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. I'll do 2 games because I have to do 2. First of all, it'd be like Fantasy Zone, because when I played the second one that they did, M2 did for the 3DS, they had that really cool like roguelite type game they added where you take all the coins and you try to like come back over and over again. And I was like,
Right.
dang, an indie developer could make a great game with like a bunch of crazy roguelite options and different types of game modes like classic, etc. And I still think that the art style in that game holds up even today. So I think they could do a lot of crazy things with that game. Maybe explore a new art style where it looks like crayons or something. I think it could really lend to a good indie developer or even someone like M2 to make a full sequel, third game. And another game that deserves a part 3 is Outrun. I think Outrun 2 is one of the greatest games ever made. Outrun 1 is one of the greatest arcade games ever made. So I think the world needs to heal and it needs a new Outrun. I think Ferrari needs to lift the license and give us and bless us with an Outrun 3 so we can celebrate Ferrari culture the way it's supposed to be, with beautiful hero music in the background. Yeah.
Wonderful. And they need to release it soon because we're coming up on episode 200 and that would have to be Outrun 3 and they haven't made it. So they better get on it. My pick, I'll go with one. I would say Panzer Dragoon, and I'm talking not the remakes that they've been doing, but a internally developed like RPG, Panzer Dragoon Saga style RPG. And I know that might sound like a lot to ask, but if you go back and play Panzer Dragoon Saga, it's not like it's epic, but it's not like, I mean, Pirate Yakuza is more epic than Panzer Dragoon Saga when you just look at the sheer amount that you can do in size and scale and production budget.
That game could definitely use like a RE remake, like reimagining, mocap. Like the atmosphere in that game is so incredible. So like if they could bring it and keep the atmosphere, what do you think about like Forever Entertainment's like take on like House of the Dead 2 for like, I hate that they never keep the art style. Yeah. No,
I picked those up just out of sheer like commitment as a fan, but I to be honest, I played them a little bit and I just didn't enjoy the art style and the additions they did. Like they kind of remind me of those early Sega Ages 2500 releases for PlayStation 2 where they weren't giving you like straight reissues, but they were like trying to remake games like Space Harrier and Outrun in 3D, and they just looked like garbage. And Forever Entertainment's doing a little bit of an extra good job there, but still, it's like, I
can't stand the way they changed the art style. They made it look like I'm in a fantasy, like in a weird Lord of the Rings fantasy episode, but it's House of the Dead. And then like the blood doesn't even like, it looks like they put a filter, like those low budget filters you got when you first edited videos that you could just like overlay. That looks like the same effect. It gives me that feel to it, and I feel like somehow they did better with like the body falling apart, decomposition or whatever. In the actual original game in the arcade than this one does. I'm like, how do you go backwards? Come on, man. Did you play it? I don't know. That makes me mad. So you have to be very careful when you remake some classic games. That's all I got to say.
Well, then I'm going to just go to this question. It's Michael's third question, but I'll ask it second. Would you say that's your most disappointing Sega game, or is there a what is your most disappointing Sega game?
Oh man, disappointing. I would say it's crazy. What was that game that came out in the early 2000s that was like virtual, what was it?
Virtual Quest?
Virtual Quest. There you go. I was going to say virtual adventure, but yeah, Virtual Quest, because I felt like that had so much potential to like be good and like introduce new children to like or at least younger people to Virtual Fighter or other Sega franchises.
Right.
It could have just been like a kid goes adventure and it's a bunch of Sega franchises, and they kind of screwed that up, and I was so hyped for it because I liked the concept of bringing back Virtual Fighter at the time. And I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. It does look good in screenshots when you look at it online, and then you play the game, and then you're like, oh, this is why no one likes this game. But yeah.
Right.
You?
Yeah. I mean, for me, there are games I think are like the worst, but like if you talk about a game like Sonic 06, I played it in 2008, so I knew what I was getting into. I wasn't disappointed. But I probably actually would say Sonic Forces, and it's because you and I were there for the reveal of it, and it was such an epic moment. Like, it seemed like they were making Sonic Generations 2.
Oh, yeah.
Fandom was, like, going crazy, because it was, like, a dark take on, like, it was like if Generations was a look back, it felt like at the time that Sonic Forces would be like a look forward, where what if Eggman took over the world, and then they bring classic Sonic back, where it's like, instead of modern Sonic going back in time, this one's going to be classic Sonic going into the future, and in modern Sonic's like worst nightmare. And it sounded really exciting. Join the Resistance was, I know now, it like kind of cringy, but at the time we were like, whoa, what is that? That's so cool. And when you finally play the game, like, the stage design was really like almost straight out of a mobile game, which I think actually some of the people who worked on that, their only other work they've done is like Sonic Runners, So it's like, yeah, they actually did hire people who've done only mobile games. Stages felt like short and easy. It wasn't a broken game, which is a good thing, and I thought it was a pretty looking game, but like the soundtrack wasn't all that hot, and the fact that they teased all these bosses returning and you could only fight like a handful of them, and they weren't even themselves, they were just like visions or like like mirages, was kind of weird.
Infinite didn't have like a fulfilling arc as a character.
Not at all. No, and then the fact that it was really like the story was following from Sonic Mania. So you have a game that's like seen as one of the best classic Sonic games of the modern era, and then the story leads into one of the most disappointing Sonic games of the modern era. So in that sense, and I don't hate Sonic Forces. I'd actually go and play Sonic Forces before 06, Lost World, Heroes, Shadow. Like, I'd rather play that again than any of those. But still, it's like, for what it was hyping up, and the fact that it opened saying from the team that brought you Sonic Generations and Sonic Colors, and then they give you that. Yeah. So
I agree.
Last question here from Michael. What is your favorite video game movie? And it doesn't have to be a Sega game.
Ooh, I'll let you go first, because maybe you'll say a movie that I didn't think about that was a video game movie. But you're gonna say Sonic, right?
Outside, I'm probably gonna say Sonic 2.
Yeah, okay. 2?
Yeah.
I thought 3 was better though, right? Come on.
I thought 3 was a better straight up adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2, but I really liked Sonic 2 in the sense that it like took all the weirdness of the first Sonic movie, and it just seemed so much like a natural progression into the next story, and everything suddenly started becoming more gamey. So like you had Robotnik in his Eggmobile, which he never had in the third movie. It
It's
had
true.
Tails in the Tornado, which they never had in the third
Mm-hmm.
movie. It had Knuckles in an antagonist role, which you hardly ever get to see. I think every canon, it seems like you only get one story where Knuckles is kind of the bad guy, and then he becomes a friend. You know, it's not like Shadow, where Shadow still like might fight Sonic. He's not totally on board with the friendship. Um, and yeah, I mean, I just think it's a really fun movie. And I still think it's my favorite of the three. But what's yours? Surprise me.
I will say I liked Sonic 3 better than 2 because I felt like the pacing was a lot better. They had a lot more going on.
Yeah.
And I think every time you saw any character come back on screen, you actually missed them. And I think they had enough variety of stories and characters where you're like, oh, it's the guy that makes coffee, right? And you're like, oh, he's back. Cool. I'm glad that he's back. Because if they give him too much time, sometimes you're like, okay, guy, let's go back to Sonic, or let's go back to another. And now they had so many characters that they all had their own little moments, and it felt like a tighter movie because of that. And they even had a good Donut Lord scene, and they even brought the what is it? The sister that got married? What's her name?
Oh, Rachel.
Rachel, and she's also in White Lotus, and she does a great job on that show, by the way.
Oh, so. She's great in White Lotus. She's getting all the hunks too.
I saw that last episode. I've been watching the new episodes, and I was like clapping in the back. I was like, "This Rachel, let's go!" I
have to remind me to tell you about my time in Thailand sometime. All the crazy.
I'm hoping it's not okay. I was going to say I want to hear about Thailand. I will say, movie wise, I don't think there's been that many great movies. I thought the Super Mario movie was really good, but I thought it was kind of like a commercial, at least story wise. It felt like it was a big ad, which is good sometimes, but at the same time, I'm like, what was the story? Oh yeah, they rescue it. There's some musical numbers. Animation's great. I love that. Trying to think of other good movies. Can you think of any other great movies worth mentioning?
Well, maybe not a great movie, but I surprisingly liked the first Resident Evil. But then again, I like that actress at the time. But I love that laser room. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that was really cool. They had like new metal. I remember that. It was that era where everything had new metal. I remember that. I'm trying to think of other movies that are like adaptations that are passable, at least, even if it is just a joke, or at least watching it with friends. There's some like The House of the Dead is hilarious as a bad movie.
Right.
I'm trying to think of other ones that are worth it. I'm even thinking about anime. Like, I think all the anime adaptations of Sega stuff has been like not even close to what the actual games are. So
right.
Sega's definitely lacked movie adaptations. Other studios.
I thought the Shenmue anime was good. I like that.
That one was actually good. It was surprising that it only lasted one season. I think they did a pretty good. I think they've done Shining Force stuff, but I'm not really into the whole like the new direction of Shining Force. So I wouldn't watch the new animes they did. It was usually for the new stuff. Outside of that, I think Detective Pikachu was actually pretty good. It had some like negatives to it, but I think outside, it's probably the closest to the Sonic's range. I think they're like around there. I think it's like right there with Sonic 1. Maybe a little bit lower. But besides that, I think they did a fine job. I don't like Ryan Reynolds that much, but I thought he did fine. I guess there isn't that many. I don't know. I can't really even think of that many.
I'll take your answers you gave. Okay. That's cool. Let's move on to Ben Hayward. He has some questions for us. He asks, and this is kind of coming off of our most disappointing one. He says, do either of you have an opinion on the worst Sega game of all time?
That's kind of harsh, right? It's like picking your worst child. You're like, oh, which one do I like the least? I hate them both.
I'd have to say Sonic 2006 because I think when you're coming in with such a big budget and such an important game in the series for a 15th anniversary title, they really put all of Sonic Team's reputation behind it, and it absolutely killed their reputation. It almost killed the brand. Like, sure, it sold really well, but it made Sonic a joke, and it took them years to come back and undo all the damage it did. I mean, I kind of look at movies like this too. Like you could say like, oh, the worst movie of all time is Birdemic. And it's like, yeah, but that was made with like zero budget by this like guy who couldn't speak English. Like, why am I going to call this the worst movie of all time? If anything, the worst movie of all time is a movie where they pump billions or millions of dollars into it. And it's just like boring and forgettable and stupid. Like in that sense, I'd say like something more like Batman and Robin or The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like those movies, I was just like, what is this garbage?
Right.
So that would be me. But how about you? Is there like a Sega game you're just like, that's the worst?
Oh man, I guess I really want to say something like when they were trying to revive old Sega IPs and giving them to like obscure companies, and they like did like a like Afterburner on some obscure console. But to be honest with you, I have to agree with you. I think Sonic 06 definitely takes the cake because Sega had the spotlight. They made such a big deal of it. Not only that, they like rebranded the franchise to Sonic the Hedgehog as like the first game. Like they're like, this is a reboot basically of the franchise, and it just fell flat. And then they've been kind of stumbling for a while after that, doing different types of reboots themselves. Like now it looks like kind of like a Pixar with Unleashed. Or no, we're going back to Sonic Boost gameplay, or you know what I mean? Like they had this whole thing where they're like, oh, we have to have a werewolf. Oh no, we got to reboot it now. We have to go to colors or whatever. And it was always like this whole like, I think it shook them up for sure. And I think it, like you said, it ruined the brand for I don't know. I would say a good 5 years. I think Sonic Generation was like the time they finally were like, all right, we know what kind of game people want. And then they still kind of ruined it anyway for a while, but
right, exactly. So, yeah, that's a good answer. His second question here from Ben: do either of you have a game that you'd love to feature on Sega Talk, but you haven't had the chance to get it into the schedule yet? Or to expand on his question, I would say there's so much research that it's kind of too daunting, and for me that's usually the answer as to why we haven't covered a game. But it's we have our Patreon pickers, and they always come first, and we've been blessed to go for like a year where we hardly ever get to do our own thing, which is fun. But yeah, what do you think? Like, is there a Sega Talk episode you'd want to do, but we just haven't been able to get to it yet?
I'm trying to think of arcade games I've wanted to talk about. I think we haven't talked about. Maybe we have Streets of Rage 3, but maybe we have. I think we talked about the Japanese differences between it, but I'm not sure. Maybe we talked about that in the 2 episode, because I know we covered a couple of them. At the very
least, 1 and 2. We did 2. I don't know if we did 1. That's a good question.
So those games, I think they're iconic.
We did 1 and 2. Yeah. We haven't done 3.
3 is very controversial, and I think it would be interesting to talk about, especially like how he changed the soundtrack, added more story, and even 4. I think we need to finish up the Streets of Rage stuff. That's something I want to do soonish, more than later. And outside of that, I think maybe some Japanese obscure games. I don't think we've like dedicated a whole episode to like obscure games. Maybe like Japanese ones. Maybe I'll do one on like crazy Dreamcast Japanese games worth checking out or something like that, where we just look at them. So something like that for sure. How about you?
Yeah. I think a lot of the ones where we've covered like the first 2 games and there's like a third one, we just haven't gotten to it yet, or a fourth one. Those ones always kind of bother me because it feels like unfinished business. So in that sense, yeah, it would be really great to like finish off the House of the Dead franchise, finish off Streets of Rage. For me, I think the one I personally really want to talk about is Sonic 4, and we've done 1 through 3 in Knuckles, I think. So I think we can do it, and we will do it this year because it's the 15th anniversary. I've been thinking a lot more about it, and I think what I really like about talking about Sonic 4 is there's so much to talk about, and I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean in that it has such a strange and unique development history where it started as a mobile game, it became a console game. They brought fans in to actually like ask them questions, and that's like a whole like wild thing that Sega's never done since. And then the whole like notion of them making a second episode, but they like totally reworked it. Like there's just all this, and I think that's a lot more interesting to talk about than like some of the Master System games where, you know, in the early days of Sega Talk, we'd pick one. We're like, oh, this will be fun to talk about. Let's look up the development history. And it was like, this game was made by a team that was basically a sweatshop. They finished the game in 6 weeks. No one has ever talked about the development because there's nothing to say. You know, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's boring. So, yeah, that would be mine. So I think we will get to those this year for sure. Streets of Rage 3 and Sonic 4, most definitely. Do you have a favorite Sega game cheat code?
I think the one that I remember, I was so against codes growing up, but the one I did use because I could never beat the game was I was obsessed with Shinobi Legions on the Sega Saturn. So when I got the 4-in-1 with the Game Shark, I put the Game Shark so I could never die because I could never beat the game. And I swear that game's impossible to beat. Like I don't know. I have seen people beat it online, but I still don't believe it. Anyway, regardless, I used it so I could get to the end of the level because I was crying inside emotionally because I couldn't beat the game. So
I'll
did
give
use
you
it
that
for
one. I think a lot of games are very unforgiving, especially in like the Shinobi franchise. Like the 3DS game, the PS2 one is probably the most difficult game ever made, I think. Like the fact that you die just from like existing
and
is wild.
And the like checkpoints are like ridiculous too, so you have to play like 15 minutes every time, and it's so, like, oh, come on.
I think, I mean, as a like blanket answer, I would say any cheat code that like doesn't give you invincibility but gives you like infinite lives, because I hate those game over screens. I feel like that should have died with the arcades because I bought the game. I don't need 3 chances and then it's over. Like I'd like, and that's what I loved about Sonic is that you don't even need a code. It's so forgiving because you can get lives, you can get rings. But I would say my favorite Sega game cheat code would be Aladdin on the Genesis, because I know it by, I like any of the ones you know by heart. You'd pause the level and you go A B B A A B B A, and then it goes do dun 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 dun, you know, and then as soon as the next level starts, you pause and you go A B B A A B B A. It's just, it's so funny. I also really like the Sonic 3 one where you grab the vine and you spell out Barracuda. You know
there's
that
also
one?
the yeah. I was gonna say there's also the one you get all the levels. So that was another one I think I
up,
used
down,
a lot
left, right,
too.
A, start.
Yeah. And we use that one because, like, obviously, like, especially when people come over to your house, like, I had cousins, and, like, oh, they want to play this level, just unlock it instead of having them play it because some of them sucked, but they wanted to see all the levels.
Sonic Triple Trouble has a very easy to enter one. It's like when Knuckles touches the 3rd emerald, you, like, enter the code, and it works. It's great. I love any level select at the beginning, not because it's like you're cheating, but just like I've completed the game. I just want to go back and play like that one stage I really like.
Because it has a good soundtrack, or like one song you're like, I want to play it. Just listen to the song.
Yeah. And it's not a cheat code, but I've recently really come to love Sonic Jam's easy mode. I played Sonic 1 on easy mode, and it's just one stage from each zone, or one act from each zone, and they removed all of these like hazards, and so it's like a chill mode where you don't feel stressed. You know, you complete the game in like 20 minutes, and it's just it's a nice like sampler. You know, like you're too tired to really have a challenge.
And they did that also with the 3DS Outrun release. I thought that was sick. Like they take away the traffic, So that way you could just drive in an open road and enjoy the beautiful soundtrack. I thought that was cool.
That is cool. Yeah, I love that. Nicholas Schaefer has two questions. The first one is, what's your favorite non-Sega console?
All right. I that's a hard question. I'm trying to think. I don't know. PlayStation 5, Steam. I don't know. The iPad. What about you? I'm thinking.
I would say I
Super
used to
Nintendo
really
had
like
cool games.
I used to really like the original Xbox just because of all the cool exclusives it had, but the hardware itself just sucks. Out of all the consoles I own, and I own a ton of consoles, the original Xbox is the only one to completely die on me. And
Wow.
no one will fix them, really, that I know of. And buying a new one just seems like such a headache. So I don't want to say that because it's not my favorite. It's one I used to like, and now I don't.
It definitely had like the Dreamcast 2 vibes when it was first coming out. So I could definitely see as a Sega fan being like, I'm jumping right on this Xbox band. I mean, the new wave, right?
Right, but how can it be my favorite when it like dies?
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think, like, even 3DO and those that I played, I always felt like they weren't at Sega's quality at the time. Even though the Saturn was a failure, I was like, I'd rather play a Sega Saturn than a 3DO or a Jaguar.
I'd honestly have to say the PlayStation 4. And it's not because I love the hardware and controller and everything, but I love Sega's output for it. And if you were to tell me, like, hey, what's the one console you can't live without right now for your like Sega games, I'd be like PlayStation 4, because you take that away from me, I lose my entire Yakuza library, my entire Sonic library. Even though Xbox One has like more Sonic games than any other console, I think the PS4 has just been really dependable for me. I've owned it for years and it's never broken. It plays every single Yakuza game, even the most recent one, which is wild to me. And even like if you wait long enough, they'll put like the Jedi Survivor game on it. You know, like I would not be shocked if the new Indiana Jones eventually goes to PlayStation 4.
Well, it's coming to PlayStation 5. I know that
for sure.
But, I guess the PlayStation 5 is a PlayStation 4 because like it's like it plays everything on PlayStation 4, but
exactly.
I will say that you make a good point about the PlayStation 4. Like, it's dominated so much that even though I really like the Switch, it's really hard for me to say, yeah, but I played literally Metaphor, the Yakuza games on the PlayStation 4 and 5. I would just put them as one console, the PlayStation 4, 5. Just quick. I mean, they're the same console to me because they're like a PC upgrade. That's what it felt like when it came out.
Yeah.
Because I feel like 80% of people are probably playing PlayStation 4 available games on their PlayStation 5 so far.
I'd say as far as handheld, I'd probably have to go with Switch. I don't see that as a home console. I see it as a handheld. But before that, I really loved the 3DS. And one that I've come to really like recently is the Neo Geo Pocket Color. I think it's just such a cute little console. It's like, it's one of those handhelds too, where it's like the fact that it's held back in so many ways makes it kind of relaxing to play, because there's no internet connection, there's not even a light behind the screen. Like I need to like it's a console that kind of tells you to not like sit in the dark, but actually like turn on some lights. And it's a great game, like great little handheld to like take outside and like play. So
I love the way it looks. I think it has cool aesthetics. I think the cartridges are cool. I love the way that each one has a unique design. I thought that was really cool. It's something that a lot of US-based hardware don't do. It's pretty typical in Japan, especially for the Dreamcast in that era. But like now, you go to a store and all the Switches are literally the same Switches that came out. Like they look the same, like with the same Joy-Cons, and the same colors.
The Neo Geo Pocket, the black and white one, was forward compatible, which was like unheard of and still is unheard of. Like it can
Right.
play the color games in black and white, which I think is wild. So yeah, those would be our answers.
Yeah.
His other question is, what is your favorite third-party developer of games for Sega consoles?
I guess at the top of my head would be like Capcom. I think they've always
Mhm.
been like number one on my library. I think they did some of the greatest games on Sega, some of the best arcade ports for their
Yeah.
CPS whatever one arcade cabinets. I also think Taito does really good stuff. I always thought like Sunsoft was really good, and Hudson Soft. I really liked their games too. I thought they were all underrated, and I know Hudson did their own console stuff with like the TurboGrafx 16. They had like a bunch of exclusives. But I
Hmm.
thought it was cool when they started opening up the games for every other manufacturer. I think those guys are kind of underrated, and now they're a Nintendo company. I wish they were still their own entity and they were making more games, but I think those are probably mine. What about you, Barry?
I would say on the Genesis, probably Virgin Interactive. I thought they had some
Mm.
really innovative and cool looking games. On the Saturn, I know Wipeout came out for that, so I do really like how do you say it, Psygnosis's games. But they've done Lemmings, they've done Wipeout. I enjoy their stuff. And then on the Dreamcast, like Capcom, no question. It's like,
Yeah.
if I became a Sega fan on the Dreamcast, I also became a Capcom fan because they had such a great library of just like fighting games. That's
I,
all
I,
they
I
really did. But
I
why
will say
complain?
that I really wish that Namco was part of the Sega train instead of going on PlayStation, because they were like
Mm,
the one Japanese developer that I'm always like, great, it's PlayStation, of course. Like, I thought Time Crisis was great. I thought they did a good job with Tekken. It was cool that they were rivaling Sega, but I'm like, should have just went third party and just put it on Saturn. But I was always jealous that like PlayStation got them, and they were great. And it was actually their like best years, in my opinion, was that those like Time Crisis era. I think now they just make anime games. If you like animes, then I guess they make the games you like. But I like it when
yeah,
they were doing original titles. But yeah.
yeah. All right,
Mm.
cool. Well, those are our patrons, so thanks to them. I threw the question up on Blue Sky, so here's a few questions we got that we'll give answers to. Shenmue Dojo asks, "Do you know of any place where sailors hang out?"
I think at the harbor.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
would
mean,
guess.
that's where you got to go. Yeah,
I
one hundred
would
percent.
check there first.
Mick asks us, "Any hopes and dreams for this alleged new Evangelion Sega game?" And it
Oh my
links to an
god.
article. I've never heard of this. I don't know if this is like legit or not. So I guess there's been this like rumor about Sega making a Neon Genesis Evangelion game.
Evangelion, right?
I always said
Yeah.
Evangelion. I don't know,
I
Evangelion.
think that's what it is, right? You think
I
that this is true?
I don't think it's true. I think Sega are done with the days of licensed games.
Me too.
So I'll be honest, I'm not a big Neon Genesis Evangelion. The fact that I can't say
Can't
it.
even
I
say
like the
it.
theme
Yeah.
song, but I've never really
Sick.
gotten into it, and I don't know enough about it. But honestly, like if it was the Saturn era, I think that would be awesome. But it's 2025, and it just seems like it would be a weird thing for Sega to do, especially when they don't own
The
the
franchise.
the franchise. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I gotta say I have no hopes.
Me neither, but I would love to see like the Persona team do it. That would like they would probably be the best to handle this type of game. But of course, they have to make Persona 6 because we're all waiting for it. So good. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they did it, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I think SmileBit could do a Fooly Cooly game. That would be pretty
Oh
cool.
yeah, for sure.
That'd be sick. I'd like
Yeah.
that. Um, Over on X, aka Twitter, I call it Shitter, we have a question from Silly Guy
What
who
a
says,
silly guy.
what does Silly Guy say? He said, "What do you think the odds are of Sega releasing a new classics collection?" We've kind of covered this.
Yeah, we did cover that, and I mean, I hope it's high because we want it, but I think they've been kind of silent since Sega ages, so we'll see. But
Yeah, I think this is kind of a new question because, like, what are the odds? I would say the odds are good because, like you said, Sega ages has been ages. It's been ages since Sega ages, and that was a Switch only thing, just like the 3D classics. And I feel like they want to bust out of that and give us a little bit more. So I think right now the focus is on the new releases, but they're going to want to also tap into that back catalog. And I mean, you see that at the beginning of the Sonic movies, all those games. And like the fact that you can't play like 90% of them now is kind of like,
right.
Why are you? I honestly, I don't know why at the beginning of Sonic 3 they didn't update them. The fact that Room Mania is there.
And they never made a sequel?
Yeah, it's so odd. And it almost reeks of the person who made that just Googled Sega clips. And they're like, well, this looks random, you know?
My thing is, like, I don't know how popular Romania was, but, like, I've seen it I think in TGS maybe, like, I don't know, 8 years ago. They were talking about making, or maybe less, 6 years ago. They were talking about making a spiritual successor, and then you see it in the logo in a movie in theaters. It's crazy. I don't understand that. I agree. They need to, like, update it with the core games that at least, like, Jet Set Radio and games they're actually bringing back, like Shinobi, should have more center stage, at least on the logo.
For sure. Yeah. So, yeah, odds are very good. I would say give it a few years. STH44 asks, what is the best classic Sonic game? George.
So, I guess, like, it depends on the rules. I will not allow Sonic 3 and Knuckles because it wasn't officially released as Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and I know a lot of fans like to put them together. And if those two games were together, it would be, of course, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Sonic 3 is fine. I like it. It's a great game. And Knuckles is good too, but I think Sonic 2 kind of like was like, if you were there at the time, it like mind-blowing release.
Yeah.
I like the art style better in Sonic 2. I think every single level has a really cool, unique art look. Like they like nailed the look of Sonic. I don't really like the shiny redone sprite on Sonic 3 where it has that shine on his head. I prefer the original 1 and 2 model or sprite for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I'd have to say Sonic 2 is my favorite classic Sonic game because I was there at the time of release. I got it a few weeks after it came out, and I think it was actually one of the first used games I bought, and I was so confused. I was like, how can it be used? It just came out, but I'm guessing it was like the store demo copy. Like they probably cracked one open and had it playing, and then they decided to sell it. But yeah, it's just like you said, the art style, it's like the last time Sonic games looked like that until I guess Sonic Mania came around. But even then, I don't think Sonic Mania really perfected what the Sonic 2 look was. I also like that out of the box, it was just a great all-in-one experience, whereas Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, you had to like get each game in order to get the full experience, and I don't really see either one of them as being better than Sonic 2 on its own. I also think Sonic 3 and Knuckles is kind of overwhelming and bloated. It's still a epic, great game, but I've never once thought, oh, I should sit down and play this. Like, there's a reason it has a save system, you know? Like,
right.
You know, if Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 are like that like 30-minute album from your favorite artist, then Sonic 3 and Knuckles is like that 3-disc experimental album they put out that everyone says is the best one, but you're like, I have never sat down to listen through this from start to finish.
It's for the high art people, like the people that need the depth and the beefiness to their Sonic games. I think, like you said, 2 is the perfect balance, in my opinion. It has all these new features that blew your mind, like multiplayer, having a second Tails as your second player. It was cool having Knuckles and all that, but it was just like, having all that for the first time is something special. And like I said, the art style in every single one, casino stages, these like Aztec stages, chemical plant zone, yeah.
Right, and then also worth noting that Sonic 3 on its own was Sonic, Tails, or Sonic and Tails, and Sonic and Knuckles was Sonic or Knuckles.
Right.
And so you didn't get, and you didn't really get the full experience until you had to lock them on.
And
So.
it was cool that like Knuckles had its own gameplay that was slower. I mean, he wasn't that much slower, but he had the gliding and stuff. I thought that was, I mean, there's really good stuff from 3, but like I said, 2 is just perfect. I mean, in like the time it came out and what it did
For
at
sure.
the time and the art style. So yeah, 2.
Yeah, and we did that in I don't know when we did it, 2018 or 2017. We did that top 100 Sega games of all time, and Sonic 2 was the reader's choice. So, I want to do that again this year. I'm probably just going to like repeat the process and put it out there, and maybe next year tally everything up. But I'd be interested to see what changes. Last question here from Discord. Amy asks, how many Sonic plushies does Barry have?
Oh, God.
Well, I'd like to know
reveal?
first, do you have any Sonic plush?
Me?
Yeah.
I have a Dr. Eggman one that I bought from the Sonic Boom when we were in that event. And I think I have one that was gifted by someone. And that's it. Only 2.
Okay.
So I'm not a collector of plushies or action figures. I try to like keep it to games because I know
Yeah.
that I go crazy. So I'm like, I'm not even going to open this up. I'm already in vinyls and video games. I'm too deep and it's a problem.
Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
not going to open up another bag of collectibles.
I was prepared to say I'm not really a plush collector, but then I looked around me and I'm like, it's easy to get a lot of them and not notice it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking. So I got these. You can see it behind me here. There's these like little Sonic storage bins that you can get at Target, and I bought 2 of them, and I filled 2 of them. I'm like, and I'm done. But what I have over in the one you
overfilled.
can't see here is there's like Mighty Ray, Vector, and a couple Eggmen. So clearly I'm like, oh, these ones are just really silly. I gotta get like a weird Vector plush, and a Mighty and Ray are just cool. But then I was like, oh, when I went to the state fair, they had these cool carnival plush of Sonic, classic Sonic and modern Sonic. So I got those. And then I was at Target and I saw the Sonic Prime doll for like 70% off for $3. So I got that. And then over here, I started getting the Build-A-Bear. and then under those are the Sonic 2 movie plushies. And then up behind me are the Sonic 3 movie plushies. And then in this cabinet are the Sonic Underground Denny's promotional plush, and then the original Sonic and Tails plush that like I had as a kid. So I actually, before we recorded, I did do a loose count, and it's like 25.
Okay.
That's not crazy.
I thought it was more.
The largest
I don't know.
the largest one is on a chair next to me that I was gifted to me.
Tell me
and
in the comments if it's crazy to have 25 Sonic plushies. I don't think it is.
If you consider that they take up, like, look at this thing behind me, that times 2 is 25. Because they're all tiny. A lot of them are tiny. Like, they're like this big.
But you didn't get
So
Sonic
that's okay.
Prime figures, right?
Now, I
Or
will say if there's one more that I would really want to get, it's the one of Sage, where she looks like a grumpy little baby. Have you seen that one?
No, I have not.
It's
Grumpy
so
baby
funny.
Sage.
Isn't that cute? She's like a grumpy baby. That's my answer.
I mean, I
And
like
I've been-
the grumpy look of her.
I will say I've been passing on a lot of them now. Like I went to the store and I saw Target has this new one where it's like Eggman in his Eggomatic and there's like a clear plastic windshield and everything. And I'm like, that looks cool, but like I don't have any room for it, so I didn't buy it. And so I think I'm kind of at that stage now where I'm just passing them up. Unless it's like a really cool, rarely seen character like Fang or like Sage, and it's like small, I'm not going to get it. I'm done. You know?
not a plushie guy. Like, what's your number one thing to collect for Sonic? Like, is it the figures or is it the statues?
It's the action figures, because for the longest time I was really disappointed in the quality control of them, and I like passed up on a lot of them for years because I'm like the Jax or Jazzwares ones, they like fell apart.
Mm.
And then when Jax Pacific got it, their original things were like bendies, and they looked so cheap, and I'm like, oh man, why did Sega pick this company? They look like bootlegs. And then all of a sudden they must have started hiring people who were like the best in the business, because they've released like amazing figures of like the Werehog and Sonic in his grind shoes, and like Cream the Rabbit, and like Neo Metal Sonic, and like Infinite got one, which is wild to me. They even like do the bottoms of the shoes correctly, which is wild. Like, you know. So yeah, I would have to say the 4-inch line of Sonic figures are my favorite, and they're the one thing I would not stop getting. But there are a lot of things that I really don't buy a lot of Sonic stuff anymore.
You're quitting the
which
Sonic.
seems weird.
Right.
No, but I pass up on so many things now because it's just there's too much they're putting out there. But if it is an action figure, I will pick it up. But I've stopped buying them like in the bubble and keeping them in there. Like I opened everything and then sold all my duplicates, which actually like paid for the ones that I opened, which is kind of great.
Oh.
Like, you know, I think I spent like one year, I think I spent like $200 throughout the year on carded Sonic action figures, and then I sold half of them for $300. So, you know, investment. I guess. And I have some in storage, and I use them as birthday or Christmas or birthday presents for like kids that my kids get invited to parties for, and I realize I didn't buy a gift. I'm like, oh, have a Sonic. So
everyone gets a Sonic.
Hey, it's got to spread the gospel. You know, it's better than a Bible.
Exactly. I agree. The heroic tale of a hedgehog that goes against technology. What better tale to tell the kid? Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So that will do it for this, our first, and I hope not last, but I think it will be quite some time before we do another Q&A. Maybe not as long as 160 episodes, but you know, maybe this time next year we'll jump in and do it again, because it is a fun kind of thing to do around this time. It is spring break coming up, so you know, it gives us a little break. But for the next episode, George, you can pick from anything that Daniel has. I'll admit, I'll just put this out there. He's been pushing for Sonic Forces for April Fools, and I don't know why he wants it to be a Fools episode. Maybe April Forces. He's been pushing for Sonic Forces for April Fools. So if that's what you want to talk about,
I would love to talk about Sonic Forces. So I guess we'll talk about one of the most disappointing Sega games on April 1st. Not a fake game. I was thinking maybe like a fake game or something, but no. We'll talk about
episode
Sonic Forces.
Shadow. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, Forces, I think there's a lot to talk about. I think Infinite and the side stuff is interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about Sonic Forces and Infinite and what we think about this tragic video game next time on Sega Talk. Bye.
Bye.